Okay, we are going to have a little rant here. But before that, I want to tell you a cute story. You know, I have talked about how the Bantam coach and roosters. Now, people who don't have roosters, they have roosters get a bad rap. Some of them really have a bad rap because there are a lot of aggressive roosters. When you get something from a hatchery, they don't breed them for temperament. They don't select for temperament. The way you do that is, if you have a mean rooster, you don't breed from him, and you get rid of him and get something else. So, roosters' temperament is an inherited trait. So you breed from the easygoing ones that understand where the food and water is and don't abandon their girls when trouble hits and all that kind of stuff. Because they're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to have a mean rooster to you to be aggressive toward predators to protect his hens. So I always suggest the Bantam Cochins because I had one from Ideal Poultry years ago. He was very flawed, but he was a wonderful little guy. He never had a Bantam hen. He always was with the big blue Orpingtons. And so he was wonderful. And the hens loved him. And later he died. Well, that's why 2 years ago when I got this new bunch of hatchery birds, I went ahead and got straight run Bantam Coaches. Straight run just means they're not sexed. And usually they don't sex Bantams anyway. So I got them, and out of that I got 4 males. I got the 2 splash Cochins, and I got the 2 buff Cochins. And every one of them was sweet as they could be. Then Cricket hatched a couple of eggs. She hatched Mace and Iris. Mace was another splash Bantam Cochin. Very sweet little rooster. He had to be moved to the barred rock pen because, of course, him and Gunner had a thing, and they didn't get along. So there was that. And so he's been really great since Hector died. He inherited Hector's girls. And he's been very happy, and they've been relatively happy. He's a little bit of an irritant sometimes, but to them, but he's a good little boy. Well, yesterday something happened with him, and I just wanted to tell you, and my husband really is the one telling the story because I came into it at the tail end. I went down into the pasture. I got so tired of I was about to get sleepy. I was sick of sitting on a computer and looking at videos and stuff, and I wanted to go out. So I went outside and I put on my hiking boots and I went down to the pasture. And I went down to the spot where I would love to build a little house, a little house for the future. And I stood around and I thought, okay, the driveway goes here. I was just assessing the situation. And I turned around and started coming back up the hill. And when I crested the hill, I saw my husband sitting out in the pen. He hadn't been outside. He was sitting there with Zara in his lap. Big old Zara, who loves to be picked up. She's his girl, so she asked to be picked up and held, and he's sitting in this little lawn chair, and he was holding her. And I said, hey, what are you doing? Because I wasn't even up to the gate, the perimeter fence that leads me out of the pasture into the main property. And I said, what are you doing out there? He goes, oh, well, Zara wanted me to pick her up. And he goes, you know what? He said, Mace is looking for you. I said, what? He goes, yes. He said, he was standing there, and Mace and the 4 Barred Rock girls were outside, and he said, he sat down with Zara, and Mace was walking over the pen, looking around like he was looking for something. He was searching for something. And he was searching and searching and searching. He said, he was looking for you. He said he went all over, because he said, I even asked him, I said, Mace, what are you looking for? And then about that time, I was visible from down the hill. And he said, all of a sudden, he saw you in the distance, and he went booking down to the bottom of the pen. He stood, and that's when I was coming up to the gate. I came into the gate, and I looked, and Mace had run all the way down to the bottom of the pen. He was standing there looking. And I said, hey, Mace, are you looking for me? And he starts chattering and chattering away. And he runs back up to the gate, comes out the gate, and comes down to me. And he's chattering and chattering. I said, well, hey, sweetheart, were you worried about Mom? And he's chattering, and he's picking up stuff to show me, and he's leading me back into the pen. Leading me. And if I slowed down, he turned around, came back, and he turned around, and he'd come back to me and pick up something on the ground and turn around and go with me. I said, well, I'm going in. Come on, let's go. So he turned around. He was satisfied with that. He came running into the pen with me. And Tom said he was just beside himself. He acted like he didn't know where you were. He was so worried and upset. And I said, well, that's adorable. So, I've had roosters, actually literally try to protect me. The threat wasn't really a threat, but they didn't know that at the time, back when the cat first showed up in 2014. And he decided to stay, and he's walking around, and I'm free ranging, and Atlas, we lost Atlas recently at 9 years old. Atlas saw the cat coming toward me, and he came right between us and made sure he blocked between me and the cat. I said, it's okay, he's not going to hurt me. And so he stomped and chased the cat away. Or tried to chase the cat away. And of course later on he began to steal mice, half-eaten mice from the cat so he could give it to his hens. But, I've had that happen. I had this rooster look for me yesterday, very upset that he didn't know where I was, which was very cute. I mean, that's just adorable. I mean, he's a sweet little boy, but he's really a stellar rooster. And Lady Hawk, I had given her a son of my late Delaware rooster Isaac, big, beautiful, and looked just like his sire. He was so gorgeous. And she named him a Viking name, Ragnar. And she said she was out in the yard, and all of a sudden she heard this growling, and there was a pit bull come from the neighbor somewhere. She always had a big problem with roaming dogs. And the dog was standing there, and he had his head down, and he was growling at her. And Ragnar came walking in there and stood between her and that pit bull. And I've seen roosters protect their human women, so to speak, repeatedly. Isaac, one time, one of his sons, Deacon, he's very friendly. He was a very friendly rooster. He was a mixed breed, he wasn't Delaware, so he looked kind of like a barred rock with some other patchwork colors. And Lady Hawk was in the pen with him, and she's bending down, and she's giving treats to the girls. All of a sudden, God, what is his name? Deacon. I almost forget his name. I don't know how I can forget Deacon. He was quite a clown. He came running. He jumped on Lady Hawk's shoulder. Not to attack, just being friendly. Just being the big old goofy goober that he was. And Isaac stopped, and he lowered his head, and he charged. And she said, all I could think of was, oh, this is going to hurt. He was going after Deacon because he thought Deacon was being rude to his girlfriend. So, it's very interesting how they will actually defend you. But if you're scared of roosters, I would suggest getting a bantam cochin. You may not like the feathered legs in this. They're a bantam breed. They're a miniature breed, but you can run them. You can run them with adults. My large fowl Easter eggers, their eggs are fertile with the bantam cochins. So they can manage to fertilize eggs. And I cracked open one of Athena's eggs for breakfast yesterday, and it was fertile. Yeah, you can tell if an egg is fertilized or not, generally. There's some of them are a little bit ambiguous, but you can tell. That little white spot on the egg has a ring around it normally. It's like a bullseye, and that means it's been fertilized. Well, Athena, who is a huge hen, she had a fertile egg by Mace, little bantam cochin rooster. So they find a way. As they say, nature will find a way. But I just want to tell you that cute story. But I do want to speak about our constitutional rights in an emergency. The governor of New Mexico, was it Michelle something or another, declared she suspended the Second Amendment within Albuquerque because it's an emergency. And then they were having some kind of discussion. She was at a table with her cronies, and the reporters were going, wait a minute, you mean that nobody can carry a gun in Albuquerque? She goes, nope. And he said, isn't that a violation of their constitutional right? She said, and her basic gist was, no constitutional right is absolute, and I have the right to suspend them in an emergency. You notice how the one they suspend is usually the right to bear arms. I thought, you know what, lady? Well, let's see. Okay, so you're going to suspend unreasonable search and seizure, so you can just go send your jackbooted thugs into people's houses anytime you feel like it because it's an emergency, a self-declared emergency. You notice which one they always want to suspend because it's the one that protects us from them. Gee, so they're not absolute. So in an emergency, are you going to declare? They're going to declare an emergency at the next election, and say, we're going to suspend all the voting. You can't do that. That is unconstitutional. That is a right. What part of shall not be infringed do you not understand, you sick little commie witch? Why don't we suspend women's right to vote? It's an emergency. We can suspend anything we want. Let's just suspend a woman's right to vote and hold office. I think we should do that, because for God's sake, sometimes I think that's where all the trouble started, with some of these women that I have never seen a dumber bunch of women. There's some smart women though, and if they're the smart ones, usually are armed themselves. They don't wait for a man to protect them, or definitely not the government. So no, nothing, no emergency shall ever suspend the Constitution. You don't suspend the Constitution in an emergency. If you can do that, and you can decide what an emergency is, then there is no Constitution. There is no written right, Bill of Rights. There's no nothing. I would say don't obey unconstitutional edicts, laws, mandates, whatever they want to call those things. They're all illegal. And I advise the citizens of New Mexico to kick her commie assets to the curb. She has no right. She's violated her oath of office, which she even said that can be suspended too. Are you serious? This is the way dictators talk. You know, the Germans during the war confiscated firearms. During Katrina, they stole firearms from citizens who were merely sitting in their homes with their own firearms to try to protect what was left of their stuff. And they confiscated those from law-abiding citizens. See, they can't go after the criminals, and they're too stupid to realize that laws don't apply to criminals. Criminals don't obey laws. That's why they're criminals. It's kind of simple. It's kind of kindergarten simple. But see, this woman is also kindergarten simple. So, yeah, why don't we just suspend a woman's right to vote and hold office? Because I swear to God, that's where so much of this problem started. I mean, seriously, if you can do it to one, you can do it to all of them. All of them. But, you know, people are so oblivious, and they are so willing to give up all their rights and give up their responsibility to defend their families and their homes from criminals. It's amazing to me how they're so willing to give things up. Anybody who sacrifices their rights in exchange for what they're told is safety doesn't deserve them. They don't deserve to have anything. They don't deserve to be in this country at all. I'll tell you what, we need more governors like Kristi Noem. Somebody did. I once said, I was doing a business deal with somebody one time, and I said, and she was from South Dakota, and I said, oh, you've got that great governor, Kristi Noem. She goes, well, we don't like her. I thought, okay, I just stepped into a lefty puddle. I thought, okay, never mind. She seems like a pretty good governor to me. It was a pretty good governor to me, I thought. Yeah. What we need is not a federal government. We need every state to have a governor who will protect the rights of the citizens against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that includes the President of the United States, if he's a domestic enemy, which this one is. But people are so out of touch with reality. Some guy put his phone number on his bumper sticker, as a bumper sticker, and said, call to support Biden. And he tricked people into calling him, and he said, my goal was to make them as mad as I could make them. And when they called, he'd say, well, Hunter Biden is going to jail. He's a cokehead, and he's going to jail, and President Trump's going to be the next president. And this guy blew a gasket. No, he's not. There's no evidence of that. It's like, he goes, well, there's plenty of proof about Hunter Biden and his little drug habit. He filmed it, for God's sake. He filmed himself doing lines of coke. It's out there on the internet. You can't scrub everything from the internet, even though the people who planned the Lahaina massacre are trying to scrub all that information from the internet. So, yeah. that there are citizen journalists who are not going to be deterred. They're still looking for answers. One guy said, well, it's already left the media. Why would that leave the media? With all questions unanswered, with missing children, with missing families. And I would advise them not to give their DNA, because that's a trick. That's a trick. That's not trying to locate your loved ones. They're not gonna do all them DNA tests. They're not gonna do those. They're just gonna collect your data. And that's what they use to create medications to inject you with. China's collecting the DNA of Americans now. And this administration is a shill for China. He also axed all the new state drilling leases and everything recently, I understand. I don't know the ins and outs of that. You'd have to research that. When they start exerting control under every aspect of your life and trying to make you suffer, you have a dictator. You have Hugo Chavez. You have Fidel Castro and his nasty brother. This is where it's headed. If you give up your rights, then you are part of the problem. If they suspend the Constitution, I'm going to blame you guys who didn't stand up for your own rights. That includes during the COVID non-emergency and everything else. You realize there are so many businesses that got away with illegal things because it was an emergency. Do you know every business, it doesn't matter if this is if the public can go to it, every business is public accommodation, like Walmart. It may be a private company, but it is a public accommodation. You don't keep out certain people. If they said you must have the jab to come in our doors and you have to cover your face, that is actually illegal. No shirt, no shoes, no service is not even a legal sign. You know that, right? They said, well, they want to protect the public health. There's no such thing as public health. No such thing as public health. Get that through your head. It's personal health, individual responsibility. If I want to go everywhere and let people with disease cough in my face, that is my right. You don't have to protect me. I can protect myself. It's all up to me. It's all up to you. But the very idea that you can suspend the Constitution for an emergency is actually unconstitutional. That very thing is unconstitutional. You can't do it. So I would advise you to ignore unconstitutional laws and do what you know you have to do to take care of yourself and your property and your family. And please kick that skanky blue-ass commie to the curb, New Mexico. Your people are better than that. You got to be better than that woman. So just like Gretchen Whitmer, you notice a lot of the problem governors are women. That's just amazing to me. Yeah, let's just suspend their right to vote and hold office, then maybe we'd be better off. Oh, controversial, oh my God. See y'all later, bye.